Harry and Meghan have reportedly asked a school in New York to sign a gagging order. Is that true or false?
Well, I did actually read this one because initially I thought this was actually going to be quite a good thing, where I actually thought, for once, I would agree with Meghan, because I actually thought this would be about stopping teachers talking about the kids to the newspapers and all the rest of it. But actually, what I found out what this is about is that Meghan and Harry want to stop the teachers talking about them and not actually saying anything negative about them. And I was like, how much of a narcissist do you have to be that you feel the need to silence people?
This is classic Meghan and Harry.
It is indeed. But Pete, is it true or is it false that they've attempted to get a school in New York to sign a gagging order?
Sadly, it's true.
It's absolutely true! Dame Caroline Dinenage has asked the video site Rumble to demonetise Russell Brand after a series of allegations. Now, you know, it's not only is it true or is it false, but is it right for politicians to just ignore the police, ignore the judicial process and just jump in 2 feet first?
Who does she think she is?
Well, she thinks she's the chair of the select committee, whereas in fact she's the chairman.
Yeah.
Leave the police to do their job.
Yep.
And leave media to do their job and let everybody have free speech, and then hopefully we get to a place of truth. But just trying to say defund, gag them, all the rest of it. No, be careful. You know, we can't be doing that.
How much of a problem is it for people like you who attempt to represent a view that isn't the majority?
Yeah, it's brutal.
Well, we talked. There was some specifics you didn't want to talk about, but there was you've had experience of it directly affecting you, haven't you?
I mean, you know, to put your name, and this is one of the reasons why I didn't put my name to UKIP for 2 years and stayed sort of silently in the background, because the repercussions of putting your name to a party have huge repercussions. And yeah, you know, I don't mind. I won't obviously say what the industry was, but, you know, I had to resign from a major position and had a huge loss of my income very recently. Literally last week. Thanks to one of our governing bodies. So
it's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing, though, because it all runs into the debanking, the demonetisation, the sacking or whatever it was that you had, which obviously I understand you don't want to talk about on television. But it just feels like this country is now discriminating against people who have legitimate political views. I mean, you're not some sort of lunatic on the fringe. You're somebody who's, you know, a political party that has won a national UK election. I mean not recently.
I mean, that one was just cruel.
It's not been great recently. But...
No. It hasn't been great recently because tides have turned and all the rest of it. But there is definitely an attitude out there now and a want and a vibrance for people that don't necessarily represent the mainstream views. And I say mainstream, actually, I've come across very few people today who are all about either, well, Conservatives or Labour. You know, they are actually all expressing very different views. I don't know where their voters are coming from, and I genuinely think the problem is obviously the way that we do voting in this country. I think that doesn't represent the country as it is today.
Absolutely. OK, Stephen, look, in addition to writing for The Spectator, and your articles, by the way, are something that I always read, lying, of course. Well, he came on, so I thought I'd say it.
Peter reads them, so do I.
Well, Peter reads everything. But Stephen, in addition to that, you are a barrister. I mean, look, I just worry a great deal about this trial by media. You know, we are here to have a fulsome debate about things, but ultimately, when it comes to Russell Brand, and I said this really, really clearly on my radio show, we must not, under any circumstances, preempt what the police say, what the courts say, and the idea that somebody who is the chairman of a select committee believes that they're empowered to make these sorts of decisions, I think is doubly offensive because they should know better.
There is that point, and a very salient thing to remember is that we have all of these rules, which, let's face it, Parliament is currently ignoring, because we do want the guilty to be found guilty, as well as the innocent to be found innocent. We are trying to preserve justice itself. That's what the rules are for. So when a parliamentarian uses their position to circumvent these rules, they are harming justice.
I was going to say...
it's a fundamental wrong. No,
I'm going to say one thing, because obviously we follow each other on Twitter, and I think the one thing me and you have agreed in lockstep with is actually how Parliament has started to take a lot of these rules and just ignore them. And I look, the main one recently has been the kangaroo court around Boris Johnson. I know you've tweeted about this, and me and you have had many discussions over social media about it, about just how people like Harriet Harman just took the rule book, threw it out the window, and just did whatever she wanted. And I'm terrified of a parliament that feels like it has that power, that it's stepping into this arena and it's trying to turn itself into a court, and it's not a court.
Can I say this to you? I mean, Lois, this has happened before. I was really worried about the Tobias Ellwood situation. Now, it doesn't matter that most people watching and listening don't know the granular detail of what he did, but what is significant here, once again, a select committee chairman who now believes he speaks on behalf of the British government, Caroline Dinenage, now believes she has the right to demonetise people.
Well, absolutely, and they don't think that democracy applies to them either. And actually, I just want to check this with you, but is it right that in the Magna Carta there's actually a provision that people's property and their income cannot be removed unless they're found guilty by a jury of their peers? Is that right?
Well, that's where we establish those fundamental rights.
Right,
yes.
okay, but I am right that removing someone's income and property before being found guilty is fundamentally against everything that we stand for.
Yes, it is. It is fundamentally against
Right.
British constitutional principles. I mean, power has returned to Westminster, and they're clearly now enjoying the exercise of power.
Yeah.
But we are in a bit of a position. I like to remember.
Is that since COVID?
It's since we left the EU,
Right. Okay.
and it's like a Noel Coward song. What's going to happen to the children when there aren't any more grown-ups?
Yeah.
And there is a slight problem with how they're behaving. I never, I mean, I'm very happy to have this on record. I never in my life imagined that I would have to call them kangaroos. I never thought that they would act in such a way.
Stephen, is there an argument that says, and I've made this to other people, some have agreed and some have disagreed. I genuinely think that what's happened now is this. For 40 years, clearly Westminster was a local council, all well paid, jumping around in ministerial jets and cars and all this. Sounds fantastic, but really, Big Brother in Brussels is doing your work for you, probably to a greater extent than we realised. Obviously, the quality of politicians have gone down to an extent that I would argue, in both the Commons and the Lords, these are people that can't run a country. But isn't there an argument that says that now we have to find people who can do that? We probably will, and this generation will start to disappear.
Yes, and it's a fundamental tenet. We still live in a Victorian constitution, and it's a fundamental tenet of Victorian thought that if you return power to people, you mature them.
Yes.
You improve them. With their power comes responsibility. There's a deep connection between Spider-Man, it's going to sound odd, and the Victorians.
This is why I wanted him on.
Spider-Man, his motto is, with great power comes great responsibility. Well, the Victorians had noblesse oblige, which is exactly the same thing. And it's the same principle. And now that power has returned to Westminster, we do need people who are capable of wielding it.
Can I just say something? Can I clarify my point so I don't sound thick on television? When I mentioned COVID, I meant in terms of being drunk on power. I meant rather than literally the power being returned to them. Sorry, that's what I actually meant.
Although in fairness to you, Lois, they claimed powers during COVID.
Oh, yeah,
that I think were plainly unconstitutional, as I understand it. But anyway, let me move on, because we do want to ask Rebecca whether it's true or false that Caroline Dinenage has asked Rumble to demonetise Russell Brand. Is it true or is it false?
I think it's true.
It's absolutely true! OK, to Stephen. Leeds has been named the shoplifting capital of England. Is it true or is it false?
Well, I mean, I don't know specifically about Leeds, but it's clear. So we can have laws, but if nobody enforces those laws, are those laws real? Do they exist? And with the approach that's now being taken to certain criminal offences, including shoplifting, we are seeing that the fact that the law exists is less relevant than the fact that it's not enforced.
Yes.
You could say that the police aren't following any leads in Leeds.
Although,
How long have you been sitting on that one?
Pardon?
on an absolutely serious note, Stephen, you know, no action taken under £200. That means the vast majority of shoplifting cases now will be completely ignored. So, just to develop what you've said, they have in practice legalised it, haven't they?
Well, that's what happens. You in effect kill the rule or kill the law if you are unwilling to enforce it.
Yes.
If you're unwilling to enforce it, it doesn't in practice exist. Now, I don't want to besmirch the good people of Leeds. It's a city I'm very fond of. So I don't know where it is, because this phenomenon will happen throughout the country. If you take away the law, then of course people will react.
What are the police doing? Because I've seen larger and larger areas of what I would call policing transferred to local councils, antisocial behaviour units, parking enforcement, litter picking, all these sorts of things. And it just seems like what the police do now is retrospectively sit back and then await a major case that sounds interesting, but largely the rest of it they leave.
Pretty much. I think most police officers have just become glorified social workers at this point. And one thing I would speak to on this issue is, why is this happening? And I'm going to talk about a little friend of yours. It's what I've been calling...
I haven't got any little friends.
The Mizzification of society.
Yes.
To do with Mizzy and people like that, and how a lot of these shoplifting instances are all for TikTok. It's all for clicks. It's all for views. And this is one of the real problems I think that we're having is, we can talk about this from a legal perspective about how we can try and stop it, but we have to start asking, well, why is this happening in the first place? Now, I do know that this actually is in Leeds, and the area that it's talking about has gone up 86% shoplifting in 1 year. The number of incidents has gone up 86. It's 6 incidents every single day.
Is it an area of deprivation?
I think from what I've read in this particular report.
No, it's the richest part. They go, the reason I'm rich is because I like nicking stuff.
But no, it's
they've all become rich recently, selling stuff down the pub.
But no, but then
come on, lad.
But then if you look down the list of that they've released over these statistics, it's like it is up and down the country. It's all over. It's not just one specific region.
We've made jokes about Wigan on plenty of occasions, but these northern towns are struggling. You know, shopkeepers can't afford the business rates, they can't afford the rent, and now we're allowing shoplifting, and it's going to be the very areas where people are really struggling that the shoplifting is going to be worse.
Well, if you want to look at the prime example that we've just gone through, is the incident here in Peckham. You know, let's look at there's a woman who thought she could do whatever she wanted. This shopkeeper has reacted, and now the shopkeeper has been basically drummed out of his community because of a Black Lives Matter protest. I mean, some of the comments that were left on this shopkeeper's door, if they were written by a white person, I hate to say it, there would be a very different conversation happening right now. It is absolutely staggering what happened in that incident, and this, I think, is again bleeding into this ability for these people to think that they could just do whatever they want.
So Rebecca, my producer in my ear, has just said, bring in Rebecca now, she's northern.
You're northern.
All three of us are northern.
So on that basis, Rebecca, given you're northern, say something. Come on, up, by
Scotland.
Well, it's north of here, isn't it?
Oh my word. Where do we even start? It's a perfect storm, isn't it? We've got a cost of living crisis, there's virtually no repercussions, and we're all just left to be completely unruly. So yes, of course there is going to be a shoplifting epidemic, and there is one, and the statistics are proving that. As for the token northern person debating it,
all three of us are from the north.
They're all from the north.
Well,
yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, but I'm from the good bit.
Which bit?
He's from Leeds.
Lee, you next to Wigan?
That's where I'm from.
Right.
Yeah, it's fair to say that where I'm from is not the Garden of Eden by any stretch.
Oh, it's not.
Where are you actually from then?
So I'm from a town called Clitheroe.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
I know, it's from the posh part, darling.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Is it posh?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is. However, my business...
Sorry, let me just explain to Lois. It's posh because it's got both cobbles and tarmac.
Wow.
And indoor toilets.
Jesus.
It's a tough life up there. But my business is based in Burnley and Blackburn, which are they are really actually quite very deprived.
Yeah, they are.
Some of the highest deprivation areas in the UK.
What is your business? Sorry.
So I work in private mental health care, and
Right.
I consult into businesses and tell them how to support the mental health of all their employees.
How is it in Lancashire?
It's like I say, it's a perfect storm. Of course, everybody's struggling. Of course, there's no repercussions. Of course, police can't get out to crimes because they are part-time social workers. The other thing that the police are today is part-time admin workers.
Yeah.
So we need to take back proper policing. We need to have proper people on the streets. You don't need a degree to be a police officer.
No.
That's a load of nonsense
No.
too. So yes, we are struggling up in the north, darlings. But
Well, let me tell you something.
Everybody is.
I like that part of the world very much. My brother was the DJ at the Tower Bar in Cohen. I don't know if you know it. And indeed...
my
Can I
God.
just say, I'm loving the two Southerners on that end of the table having
my
absolutely
brother-
no idea.
And my cousin was the head of security at Lardy Dars in Accrington.
Oh.
Wow.
Now that's proper
idea.
deprivation.
Now, let me tell you those two places. Anyway, Stephen, has Leeds been named the shoplifting capital of Britain? Is it true or is it false?
I think it's true.
It's absolutely true!
That was The Woke That Was continues after the break. Welcome back to That Was The Woke That Was.
So to Lois, Donald Trump has declared his intention to undergo a gender reassignment and be transferred to a women's prison if he gets thrown in jail. Is it true or is it false?
I'd love that to be true, but I've just got back from Washington, D.C., actually. Yeah, I had to leave. Well, I left early, didn't I, in a strop last week on the show.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a very good strop. We told you at the beginning of the show, because you've got to leave early, walk out, and you went, I'm going to America, darling.
Yeah, because I wanted to show up.
You wanted to show
anyway,
up, yeah.
So I've been actually meeting with his top PR girl and his energy policy advisor, and it's been absolutely amazing. So there's a lot of support for Donald Trump, and they're preparing to go back into the White House. Over here, it's being sort of portrayed in the mainstream media like it's this sort of crackpot thing, but in America, that there's huge
So
money.
he's going to win?
As far as everyone I met's concerned,
Yeah, but everyone you met's voting for him. Yeah.
Put it this way: there's huge offices. They're ready to go. The staffers that were in the White House last time are in another building, ready to go back in. So, but yeah, I'd absolutely love this to be true, because wouldn't it be great to put two fingers up to all the wokes and he declared that he's a woman?
Well,
but Donald is very much a man.
Well, I want to put this to Rebecca, because the return of Donald Trump really is, as far as I'm concerned, a statement about the fact that taking back control in America and in Britain really hasn't worked as well as we expect it to be. I thought what was going to happen was we were going to, naive of me really, vote to leave the European Union, and that was the end of it. But in fact, actually, the battle has only just begun, hasn't it?
Don't tell me about it. I'm sick. Honest to God, I'm sick to death of every man and his dog blaming Brexit for, the sky's grey today. Well, that's Brexit's fault. Shut up. It's the people in charge of the country that have completely ruined it. It's nothing to do with Brexit. Yes, it's been butchered, it's been demonised and all the rest of it. It's a very sorry state of affairs, and we need a proper political power to come back into play to make it work.
Rebecca, are politicians deliberately trying to destroy Brexit and deliberately trying to destroy the Trump legacy just in order to punish us for having the temerity to vote the way we did?
Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, absolutely. It's all about control. And, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, because I'm definitely not one, but I do believe...
However, those UFOs I saw the other night...
Here we go.
Sorry, go on.
But I do believe the last 3 years has a lot been about control, and I think that a lot of the climate crisis and the climate emergency stuff is all about more taxation and about more control. And I don't think the government like it, because the people started to take back power. We don't have proper politicians in power today, do we?
Indeed.
We have career bananas who have been obsessed with power and ego and leadership, and they don't actually care about real people. We need real people to be in charge of the country, because that's the people who we're serving.
Stephen, would you vote for Donald Trump if you were American?
Well, I have a thing of not making political statements in public, so I'm opinion on a British politician.
Just to be clear, is that because you're nervous about it, or because of your job, or is it because of something else?
No, it's a fundamental for me that law remains an objective truth. And I don't want people, when I appear as a lawyer, I've got other hats, so I can appear and with another type of hat on. But when I appear as a lawyer, I want the public to know that I will stick to law and just do law, and I won't suddenly start doing politics, most importantly of all, without telling them. Right. Because I think there has been a bit of that from my fellow lawyers. Right. I don't mean to be overly critical of them, but I think there has been a bit of that.
In that case, let me ask you this question, because if you've danced onto an interesting topic. To what extent now are lawyers attempting to weaponise the law in order to subvert the meaning behind those laws?
Well, I think we are seeing the rise of the lawyer activist.
Yes.
And one of the things which irritates me, because again, I want to stand with objective truth. I care about objective truth. So on the one hand, I see lawyer activists being very happy that they are them. They make T-shirts saying that they're proud to be lawyer activists. And then you get a politician talking about lawyer activists, and all of a sudden we pretend that they don't exist.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, how dare the politician? The politician is besmirching the entire legal industry. Well, I don't feel besmirched because I don't do politics. So the politician has not attacked me. The politician has attacked the lawyer activist. And it's this argument which keeps cropping up, because I argue for a living. Yes. So I like to pay attention to arguments. Okay? And there's this twofold argument that keeps happening. It's one, it's not happening, argument one, and then two, anyway, it's a good thing. It's insane. Drives me mad.
I do have to ask you this question. When you're practicing a barrister, what do you do with the hair?
I'm very lucky in that
do you do a bob at the top?
Well, I haven't had to wear the wig because my bit of the bar, we don't really like the wig. We're sort of moving away from it.
Why?
Well,
Because
you've got enough of your own hair.
We do a lot of international work, and we're competing with jurisdictions like the US, with international lawyers on the stage, and it's seen as it is seen as not helpful for our business, if you like.
Right. Okay.
The business of law, and we should admit that law is a business, and it's thriving.
Okie dokie. Well, we have departed a long way from Donald Trump, but I have to say, nonetheless, it's an interesting subject. So has Donald Trump declared he's going to get gender reassignment, Lois? Did he do it in America when you were there? True or false?
No, that's got to be false, hasn't it? That's got to be false.
Absolutely false!
Yay!
Just time to talk about our prize this week, which is a lovely talking Donald Trump pen. And I don't know if we can hear this.
I will be the greatest president that God ever created.
There's 8 of those individual.
I'm really rich. I will build a great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall.
Okay, now we're going to ask for the scores from the Woke Wabbit, but bear in mind the only one of the panellists that's going to give this back to me is Lois. So let's bear that in mind when we welcome the Woke Wabbit.
Hey!
Hello, I want Donald Trump to transition. We need an LGBTQ AAIPP plus president.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, Woke Wabbit, what have you been up to this week?
Well, today has been very scary for me. I've been having climate anxiety because it's been, late September. It's 20 degrees out. I'm freaking out.
What do you do to ease that anxiety?
I just think about it and I get scared. Do you know what? Can I try on the sunglasses? I think I need to wear them when I go outside. Can I try them on?
No.
Don't touch the Stephen.
Okay, Woke Wabbit, now that you've joined the Me Too movement, what are the scores?
1 million points for everyone.
Hey! Well done, Woke Wabbit. Okay, so on to Pete. Bristol University, true?
True.
No.
Solid rule on this. So, because you guys haven't done this show before, solid rule. Bristol University, always true.
No,
or any university, always true.
That's not true, Pete. The University of Aberdeen.
Aberdeen, that's the one.
Okay, quote unquote, University of Aberdeen. Anyway, so Bristol University Students' Union has banned the British Army from attending its Freshers' Fair. Is it true or is it false?
Sadly, I know this one to be true because they banned what's known as the OTC, which is the Officers Training Corps, and that's basically what they banned. And they've said it's because it clashes with some other activities. It's not. It's because it's the British Army and it's Bristol University. One thing, there's obviously banning that, which I don't approve of because people want to join the army, and also I know a lot of people that did OTC just because they wanted to do it. It's a kind of physical activity thing. You get to be an army soldier. It's something fun to do. But there's another aspect of people banning off university campuses, and that's at employment fairs and jobs fairs, where they ban people like Boeing, they ban Lockheed Martin, they ban Shell, BP. These are major international employers that are being pushed out of campuses because a very small minority suddenly think, oh, my morality is more important than you getting a job. And I think that is absolutely despicable. And the one thing that I think we need to start doing now, and I don't really like arguing this, but unless the universities really start to put kind of free speech, free enterprise above everything else, we start pulling public money because I can't see any other way now of getting these universities in line.
Yes, well, for 12 years, I've devoted my charity activities. I run a small charity and I volunteer for a big national one called the Social Mobility Foundation. It's fabulous.
It is actually.
And I've mentored young people, and I have hit this problem multiple times. If my mentees are on the left, I don't get it. But I've had mentees on the right, young people who are mildly right-wing, I just had one, and his possessions were destroyed as a sort of political protest because it was a photo of him with the Prime Minister. You know, and that is outrageous that is happening to young people. And that he'd left it at his university digs. So we know that who did it, you know, and that it is a serious issue. It is happening, and I think again.
Well, of course, the good news is about that. That is a criminal offence already.
Yes,
smashing up people's stuff. I imagine the university's not so interested.
And nothing has happened.
No. But I've got to say, this is what it's often a point that I bring up on this show. Is it's not just the students that's the problem; it's the administration of these universities that are either actively encouraging it or failing to properly punish those who are doing this kind of stuff, and it has to stop.
I mean, I do accept one thing. The OTC was previously banned when there was a prohibition on gay people in the military. And what the university said was, well, hang on a second, if you're not here for all of our students, we're not particularly interested. But of course now it's just purely, we don't like Britain. Well, not being funny, guys, don't go to a British university.
One of the organisations that I met in America, one of the things that they do lots of things. This was the guy who actually was main guy behind Ronald Reagan getting him into the White House initially. But they actually fund the legal bills for right-wing lecturers and students, but lecturers and significant people within the college campuses.
Lois, it's sad that it has to come to that, where we have to run around universities going, if you get discriminated against by this university, phone this number and we'll pay your legal fees. I mean, it just feels sad that we're in that position.
Well, it does, absolutely. I mean, this organisation is slightly more hardcore than that. I mean, you know, the guy was basically wearing a cowboy hat in the office. It was a really cool meeting, actually. But it was like going back to 1970s. I thought I was in Ironside or something.
I remember talking, when I went to America, talking to this guy, and he said that he'd studied at the London School of Economics, but in the first term, his flatmate had not spoken to him at all. And he said, it's because of my name. My name just put him off. He said, hi, I'm Randy. The guy went, well, you just stick to your side of the room then.
Yeah, this organisation are hardcore. They will send teams of lawyers down, you know.
OK, well, it's sad that it's come to that in Britain, but has it come to that in Britain with Bristol University banning the British Army? Is it true or is it false?
Sadly, it's true.
It's absolutely true!
That was The Woke That Was continues after the break. Welcome back to That Was The Woke That Was.
Oh, God, no. It's one of those moments where we just hope for the best, but it's to you, Rebecca.
Here we go. Oh,
You look like you were...
That's something to do with Brexit.
No, you look like you might have been in this group. But anyway, 90s girl group Eternal have cancelled their reunion tour due to a difference in views over transgendered rights. I don't know what to say to you, Rebecca.
I know that it's true. Is it just a sad world that we're living in? So, also, again, it's this whole demonising of other people's views. There is not this place in society today where we all try and meet in the middle and have active discussions. It's either you're right and you're wrong, or that's the end of it. Like, it's awful. So, you know, it's been weaponised again.
And also, Rebecca, you know, I'm not sure where I am on the whole trans issue. Not the transition, not the transition itself. But,
how's it going?
But on the one hand, I've had friends of mine who've transitioned. On the other hand, I see people who've behaved really appallingly and using this, you know, just to get into women's changing rooms or whatever and get into women's prisons. I think I'm like most people. I just want to be nice to people. And they have a go at you, by the way, misgendering people. I'm happy to misgender you. If you want me to pretend you're a woman, I'll call you her, she, right? It doesn't bother me.
No.
Here's my issue with it. So Louise and Kelly, obviously they put out their statements and they have basically refused to be part of these festivals. But actually what the twins were saying is not that, you know, we don't love the gay community. They said that the trans community have hijacked the gay community, which is a very different thing. And I think that they've got a point.
Can I just say, but very quickly, it's a pretty unfortunate name for a group that's just broken up.
Eternal.
I know.
Do you know,
Sorry.
Do you know what I always call it? I always call it when they go, why have you got back together now? We thought it was the right time. I always call it Felicity needs a pony tour. It's like, or Sebastian wants to go to private school tour.
The thing that really strikes me about this story is I saw it, and all over Twitter you got all the people saying, oh, it's great allyship. Isn't Louise Redknapp such an ally to the gay community? I was like, well, what has she actually done here? All she's really done is put out a
You say,
statement.
I'm not going to a festival.
I'm not going to go to a festival. Well, I could do that. It's not a particularly difficult thing to
but
do.
you don't
is
go
it?
to
I don't go to
festivals
festivals anyway. But no, but in all seriousness, it's just, I see all these people keep jumping on the bandwagon of these kind of causes, saying like, oh, this is wonderful. But I'm like, well, where are you when things get really difficult?
Yeah, you've said this.
And it's always my point.
so-
Just really quickly, Louise Redknapp, apparently she's this great ally. I looked through her Instagram and her Twitter to see whether she'd even posted about the stabbings outside the gay nightclub here in London. Not a peep. So as far as I'm not a peep about it, that was a really serious moment for the gay community. And if she's such an ally and she cares so much, where was she then?
Well done, Pete.
Hey.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Although I must say, trawling through her tweets and Instagram.
Trust me.
That's what Pete. That's what Pete does, because Pete is, and we're going to rename him today, the Oracle. So he's not an elderly black lady, but the Oracle existed before the film The Matrix for younger people. But anyway, what exactly has happened?
Well, basically, it's like we say. So the two sisters in the Eternal have basically said, like as they said, that they don't want to do any Pride festivals because they don't agree with how the trans community has taken over the LGBT movement and all the rest of it. I think I'm completely on their side. Louise and is it Kelly? Is that how you put it? They've basically said, well, we disagree with you, so they've split up. And
There was 2 festivals. It wasn't
Yeah, I
even
was
like
gonna say, it
any
wasn't-
of them.
yeah.
It was 2 that
It was
were
2,
talking.
and I have to admit, I was like, I saw this and I was like, oh, here we go. And then Louise Redknapp actually on her Twitter posted that every time I speak.
I know, 90s pop. I know, not a surprise. We used to go to Christmas with steps at the Manchester 9X. Yeah, pathetic, really. No, he'll pretend it's because he knows something about everything, but he's got a particular interest. All right, goodbye. That's your dad. It's Pete Barnes the elder.
Pete Barnes Senior, yeah. Well, no, sadly, that's probably true. But no, but this is the thing. It's just yet again another example, in my opinion, of virtue signalling and of more irritatingly, of the gay community yet again jumping on a bandwagon when, in fact, all Louise Redknapp, in my opinion, is trying to do is trying to just boost her own PR.
I know this.
She's done a very good job.
I know this is an incredibly difficult question to ask anybody. I'm going to put it to Lois, but you know,
Great.
but it is a very difficult question.
Go on.
Why do you think so many young people in the gay community are so happy to have been hijacked in the way that they have by trans people? Because it seems to me that the gay rights movement is being pushed backwards as a result of this, but people are willfully doing it.
I think the problem is that young people, you know, you have the
bullied.
benefit. I don't know if it's they feel bullied. They're not looking at the whole picture.
Right.
It's like they're not, you know, the whole concept of cruel to be kind. You only really get when you're much, much older. You know, it takes a while to get to that point. They want to be seen as nice and kind and loving and accepting, and they don't see that what's happening, as you've said and Pete have said, it is subverting and putting gay rights back.
Have a 90s girl group Eternal decided that they're not going to be eternal over the trans issue? Is it true or is it false, Rebecca?
It's true.
It's absolutely true.
We feel like that every week.
Every week we had this problem. Do I clap this nonsense?
No,
or not?
the worst week we ever had was when we made up a story that Mrs. Doubtfire was going to be abandoned on the grounds it was transphobic, and we discovered that whilst that wasn't true, it was true in America. We've literally, it's not you couldn't make it up. You can make it up.
You can make it up,
But
yeah.
anyway,
You can make it up.
To Lois, Rishi Sunak is planning to fine people £10 if they miss a GP's appointment. Is it true or is it false?
Well, are they going to fine GPs for not giving us appointments? You know,
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, no, it needs to work both ways, surely.
What a great... I'm sorry, Lois. That is a brilliant idea.
Allow me to put some numbers to this. So,
Please do.
Okay, so
The Oracle.
The Oracle.
It's the Oracle. It's the Oracle.
So last year,
Next week, Pete, we'll have a little flashing thing, the Oracle.
yeah. So last year, 15 million appointments were missed throughout the NHS. Every week.
You actually can do it. Next week, the Oracle speaks. I'll absolutely love it. Yeah, okay. Well, I'll tell him to be quick with this bit.
I'll be quick.
Right, the numbers are not so interesting. All right, thank you.
I like the numbers.
Well, I remember the GP, you couldn't get hold of them at all during COVID, but they kept texting you about coming in to have an injection.
Yeah, because they got a bonus for the injection.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. So 15 million appointments were missed throughout the end. Every week.
15 million appointments missed, yeah.
Let
All
me
right.
just-
I'll tell him to be quick. All right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just ignore him completely. Okay. Right, so Rebecca, what do you think about this subject?
Oh, Lord.
Right, come on, Oracle. Just be quite
Okay,
quick.
I'll be really, really quick.
Right.
So out of that 50 million, 7.2 million of them were actually through GPs. The rest of them were in hospitals.
Right.
But it works out that it costs the NHS about just over £200 million in money through missed appointments. So when we actually start talking about people apparently caring about our NHS, how it's our NHS and we're so proud of it, and it's the most wonderful thing. When we ask people to do the most basic thing, like, turn up, they just don't. Or at least
But the reason is, of course, I'll put this to Rebecca, there's something called perceived value. There's no perceived value in a GP's appointment because it appears to be free. Of course, it's not free. And so if you put a perceived value on it, the idea is that people would turn up.
Yeah, so here is how private healthcare world works. So obviously, we dish out mental health care appointments and for therapy and things like
Wide
that.
lists. Foie gras.
So here is how we work. Yes, we do have a policy that 3 strikes, you're out. But what we do say is that you've got to give us 48 hours notice of missing your appointment.
Yep.
Depending on the circumstances, sometimes we will waive it.
Of course.
Very dependent on circumstances. But generally, yeah, if you're going to miss that appointment within 48 hours, we're going to charge you full price.
I had a friend at university who missed taking one of his books back to the library because his mother died. And he went in like 2 weeks later when he got back to campus and they went, there is a fine with this. And he said, my mum's died. And they went, well, you'll know for future. And he went, what? For the future occasion when my mum dies again?
My Lord.
Exactly. It's stuff like that. Absolutely fine, that's okay. And the fact that they probably haven't told you as well, that's okay. We did once have a client who rang up the therapist 10 minutes after he was supposed to be there with her and went, I'm really sorry, I've missed my train, I'm at a festival. It's like, shut up, and we charged him full whack.
I'll tell you what, I knocked on the door once, I'm not joking, in actually Barnoldswick, which is relatively near you.
Yeah.
Knocked on the door to this old woman, and I went, and I
Having a guided tour of the north today.
and she opened and she said, hello? I said, hello, I'm canvassing on behalf of Andrew Stevenson, the local Conservative candidate, at the general election next week. And she went, oh, I will vote for him if I'm around. And I went, why might you be? She said, I've been given 3 days to live.
That's terrible.
She said,
Did you manage to keep it together?
She said, when's the election again, love? And she wrote it
3
down.
days to live.
3 days to live. And then I said, well, we can give you a postal phone.
Yeah, thinking ahead. But you know what, though? Someone might be given an appointment for so far in the future that their illness might have cleared up.
That's like when you go to the dentist and they ask you, what are you doing on a Tuesday
Well-
9 months in the future?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm not being funny, but GP surgeries need a complete overhaul.
Yeah,
the
they
whole
do. They
system
really
needs
do.
a whole overhaol, but we could probably spend a whole episode on
Yeah,
that.
just
as
really
well.
quickly before we move on. If I remember rightly, there was
I won't answer next time. I won't answer. Right, you abused him now.
I can say.
It's not acceptable. Right, he does this every single week. He's a good lad.
No, I was just going to say.
That was actually, bizarrely, Vladimir Zelensky saying, have you got any weapons you can borrow? No,
but
God knows
I was
why.
going to say, I vaguely remember that they were going to introduce this letter that you're going to get after you left hospital about how much your visit actually cost the NHS. And I just wondered whatever happened to that, because I actually thought that was quite a good idea. Because again, people keep running around saying the NHS is free.
No, it's not free. No.
It's free at the point of use. And I think we really have to hammer that home to people. And when we actually start talking about how much we're spending on our healthcare system and, and the responsibilities that we have as a people to, if you really want to protect it, that you think it's the most wonderful thing, actually do something about it.
If you were going to get charged for it, would you still go?
Yeah, it's often the argument about gym memberships, isn't it? It's like, I'll join the gym because I'm paying and I'll go. But then I don't think many people do go.
My grandmother, I have to say, was one of those people who loved it. Whenever there was an ailment on the telly, she went in and sort of, bothered the doctor with it. She just loved it. But actually, lonely old ladies going to GP surgeries is a thing. But anyway, talking
Talking to lonely old ladies. Oh, I'm still 3 years younger than you.
I literally did not say that.
You did.
It was your question, Lois.
No, you turned to me and you were going to say, talking of lonely old ladies. Well, I'm not lonely and I'm not old.
Get on with it.
Hello, HR? Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't say she was a lonely old lady.
No, you were about to.
It's a disgrace. All right, I won't do it again. Allegedly, Lois. I've got to insert the word allegedly. Right, come on, Lois. Come on, Lois.
You're not old if the people you're dating are 20 years older than you.
Well, you won't have a problem then. Okay, Rishi Sunak is that's true. True. Rishi Sunak is planning to fine people £10 if they miss a GP's appointment. Is it true or is
False.
it false? It's absolutely true. Get your head in gear. It's a woke wabbit. Right, come on, woke wabbit.
What's going on?
What are you up to?
What, right now?
No, I mean, what have you been up to recently?
Well, I've spent the last 20 minutes thinking about what a trans Donald Trump would look like.
Okay, so what do you think about Bristol University banning the British Army?
I would abolish the British Army altogether, I think. I think it's a step in the right direction.
Okay, so what are the scores, woke wabbit?
Scores are for capitalists, so we actually don't... I'm not going to do that now.
So everybody's equal! Thank you so much, woke wabbit. That's not helping the Donald Trump head, though, has it?
No, really, no.
I'll just keep it. A man in Bristol has been charged with a non-crime hate crime after a Liberal overheard him saying, I could murder a curry in a restaurant.
This has been kind of floating around the idea that, that you can kind of record these incidences against somebody's name. And if I remember rightly, it was kind of knocked back, but then it was brought back in a different way. And I find it particularly concerning, For example, some of the things that we say on this show, some of the things we talk about, they could be legitimately reported to the police and a mark would go against our name and a record would be had of it. And I think that is entirely wrong. I think we are moving towards this such Orwellian nature of kind of policing what people think and what people say. It does genuinely terrify me.
I'm going to say this to Stephen. I'm hoping that you would say in your position that it is binary. You have either committed a crime or you have not committed a crime. Now, that is something for the court to arbitrate, and there might be debates over whether you did. But the idea that there are half crimes, partial crimes, and quasi-crimes is obviously ludicrous.
Yes, I mean, what seems to have happened is that as the country became less and less religious, more and more expectation is put on law.
Right.
Also, in the mid-90s, there is a political belief system that thought lawyers and judges were perfect, literally, that we were Hercules, that we were superheroes, that we would solve everything for the entire world. It didn't turn out
Can I just clarify, is
terribly
that
well.
because with the lack of religion, the whole sense of morals went?
You need a rule-based system.
Yeah, okay.
And what we've always had was a morality-based rule system and then a law-based rule system.
Yes.
Right. And with the death of the morals-based one, too much expectation in the law-based one, and that's where you get this nonsense coming from. Is it a crime? No, it's not a crime. Well, then why are you recording it? And how does that fit with the privacy regime? Oh, I don't really know. And the best example of these is fixed penalty notices.
Yes.
Because, I mean, if you're a politician and somebody issues you a fixed penalty notice, you're always going to pay. You're never going to dispute it. I mean, we could probably raise an awful lot of tax money just by randomly fining all of the politicians. And what are we doing with these things?
Anyway, is it true that somebody got done for a non-crime hate crime for saying they could murder a curry?
I've not read this one, so I'm going to say it's false.
It's absolutely false! Okay, so this is the deciding question, and it goes to Rebecca. No pressure. Okay, former Speaker of the House of Commons, John Bercow, has signed up to star in the new American reality TV show, The Traitors. Now, we know he was a traitor over Brexit, but is he a traitor on TV? Is it true or is it false?
I think it's true.
Well, I was hoping for a bit more detail. Come on. We've got a good 3 minutes.
All right, hang on. The best bit you're going to get out of me is The Traitors is a really good show. Have you seen it?
I've never watched it. I've not watched it.
It was good.
You're all missing. You've watched it.
It was good.
I've watched the US version. I've watched the UK version. I'm going to watch all of the other
Have you
versions.
watched the Azerbaijan version?
I will do when I leave.
Can you speak to
Moldova.
the Moldovan one?
It is really good and it fit really well.
Do you think that politicians in general should be doing reality TV? Come on, quick. Come on, hurry up.
What a tough question.
I
think Matt Hancock needs to stay as far away from the television as possible.
He needs to start first.
I know, it just doesn't have the punch we were expecting, to be absolutely honest. Well, I think she's knackered. She's had a long day on the Transport Network. I know. I'll speed her up. All right, come on. Right, I'm going to tell you. Remember what you're going to win. If you believe I'm giving this away.
I know, it's really difficult. I don't know. Matt Hancock, he needs to stay away from a television and just,
He needs to stay away from everyone.
from everything.
Yeah.
Politics, you name it, the lot. I'm all right with politicians doing reality TV as long as it's not when they are in office.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree with you on
yeah,
that.
a
I
little
don't
bit
think
of
they
class.
should be doing it when they are. You've got bigger priorities and it's not to promote yourself. We've got
No, I
too
get
many
that.
egos and leadership.
Okay, well, I have to say, anything that gets John Bercow out of the country.
Yeah, there is that advantage.
As far as I'm concerned. So, are you saying it's true or are you saying it's false?
I'm saying it's true.
It's absolutely true! Which means the final scores to the Woke Wabbit. Come on, Woke Wabbit. We can't have equality this time.
Okay, fine. Stephen wins.
Okay, Stephen, this Donald Trump pen is winging its way all the way over to you. Right. I'm off now to join the women's rowing team. God knows why, but until next week, goodbye.
Hey!